Welcome back to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, and something I kind of want to get to talk about today is, the way the media just really lets you down. What can you say? And this is one of those things I've been going around going WTH all my life about. But first, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. All that fun stuff that we do. Don't you know? Well, that sounds horrible. I wonder if I should keep that or get rid of it. You tell me. You tell me. I'm going to leave it in there. If you hate it, let me know, because I think I hate it. So, one of the things about it that's really bugged me over decades now. Let's face it, I'm in my 50s now, and if you're Gen X, you're at least in your 40s. Okay, so they've been bugging you too, all the way up to 60 years old, and you cusp children between Gen X and Boomer. Yeah, you can relate to this too. It's the way the media, it has just more or less let us down for decades.
Somebody hasn't heard the news.
News? What news?
All throughout our lives. So we start off with the over-commercialization of youth culture. And I don't care what generation it is. They do it. And we're talking marketing scams left and right. The way they did it to us, and this is kind of where I'm going to take it from, is because our attitudes, the Gen X attitude is the media capitalized on our angst and our rebellion, and they turned it into a commodity. Okay. The shows, the music, and the movies were they just exploited the countercultural vibe without understanding or addressing the deeper issues of alienation and the uncertainty that we felt. We were dealing with a world that was, on the cusp of the Cold War. You remember the Cold War? We had drills for a nuclear bomb going off, and talk about uncertainty in your life. We went through in the 80s everything that happened with the economy in the 80s, watching local banks fall like flies, big corporations just dropping out of the sky and just saying, we're done. Okay. When was the last time you went to a Kmart? Okay. Kmart was big in the 80s. Okay. Are there any of those left? Sears, it used to be a catalog thing, it was one of the biggest things, and good luck finding a Sears now. This is just some of the stuff. Then, like MTV, okay, started as music. It was music television. It was so cool. We could watch these videos, and it was all about the music and the generational stuff. And we had, whether it was hard rock, you had your Headbangers Ball, and you had this go and that go, and now what is it? How long before they started to sell out and started doing, the game shows?
That the answers can be found in the MTV video games.
Remember the show Remote Control? I think that was the first one. We just went downhill from there. Good luck fighting. I think they do Headbangers Ball still. I don't know, because you know what? Just like a lot of you, I cut the cable. I don't even have cable anymore, so I can't watch MTV, right? So if I want to watch music videos, I do it on YouTube. Okay. So then there's this neglect of authenticity, and we felt that the media in the 80s and 90s kind of gave us a superficial narratives that lacks any authenticity. And this is just kind of a common theme. There's a few things that kind of, actually kind of touched us and actually did something, and they're really big. They're huge. Okay. The Breakfast Club.
What if you're home? What if your family?
Remember the Breakfast Club? That one really touched on this wide range of people within the culture of our culture.
What if your dope was on fire?
Whether it was the jock, whether it was the thief, the crazy one, all these people in the brain, all these people, I just kind of broke them down and put them in, humanized them.
Impossible, sir. It's in Johnson's underwear.
In a way that nobody, most didn't do it. What else did you get? 16 candles. Okay. I love Molly Ringwald. All right. I really did. But come on. They had a character in there named Ducky. Okay. Ducky. Remember that? Ducky. Okay. Yeah. So that was the movies that we got. And then there were, we were labeled the slacker generation by the media. Okay. And it's like, we were supposedly we were lazy, disaffected, indifferent. We just didn't care. Okay. And this is kind of where it starts. They labeled us as this. Okay. And then they put it right into the movies. And what movies did we see that represented us? Slackers. Okay, really. I mean, there's even a movie called Slackers. Okay, so so now we have all of this going on, and we're watching the economic problems happen as we're growing up, and as our friends and our families are losing things, and double-digit inflation. We knew about these things. We were paying that much attention. Our parents were telling us about double-digit interest rates. Okay, when the adjustable rate mortgage first came out, and people were having, it's like, oh wow, because of the adjustable rate mortgage, as your interest goes down, my payment goes down. Well, that really panned out really well come about 2008, didn't it? But until then, it was really a great thing, So because we knew about these things, declining job opportunities as automation kicked in, so much more, and the economy. We were in a recession. Okay, we've lived through several recessions now as Gen Xers, so something to always understand is that when it comes to the economics, student debt and the shrinking job markets, especially after the recession of the 90s and the dot-com boom, and all, the media completely just dropped the ball on that. Didn't talk about it. When they talk about it, when now they'll talk about it, a little bit here and there, but they still don't talk about it much. And so when people are like talking about how we just don't understand what the millennials went through, yeah, we did. We went through our own stuff, So when I hear people talk about how they can't afford a house, I'm like, yeah, I know, you're right. That's horrible. I mean, the prices of housing is out of the the moon. And I'm going to give you an example. I mean, I bought our house. We bought it in 2015, at the end of 2015. Okay. And in the time that we've lived here, it has more than doubled in price. Okay. And the market is so horrible. I've got people calling me 2-3 times a week wanting to buy my house, but for some reason they don't want to buy it because I want, 3 times the current asking price for them to buy it. So, I don't know, what do you do? So every time they say, it's like, yeah, so 1.5 million, I'll take 1.5 million. And by the way, this house is not a $500,000 house in my head. Okay, when I think of a $500,000 house, I think about something way more grand than what I live in. So, much of the media in the 80s and 90s really didn't have any diversity too. When it came to things like race and socioeconomic backgrounds and stuff like that. Again, the Breakfast Club did it. There was a couple of others here and there. There were a couple that I liked, as far as that was concerned, but they really didn't do a whole lot. How many people saw a television show or a movie where this guy was a bicycle delivery guy? Okay. And I remember a Kevin Bacon movie, and I can't remember exactly what it was called. I'll look it up and put it on here. Where he was a bicycle delivery guy. He's washed up stocks guy, but lost everything, including his parents' pension, and everything. And he's living in an apartment in New York that probably at that time was worth over $500,000. Okay, and it's just not realistic. It's not realistic that everybody who is in the movies has a house. Okay. It's unrealistic, and they still do this. Okay, and then we had this whole concept of characters of color or from non-privileged backgrounds. I mean, they were just completely missing, or they were tokenized. You'd have just it's like, oh, here's my black friend. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, So, and then we had, as things like, oh, and this is one that always got me, is the 24-hour news cycle started. It was the 90s. It was CNN.
CNN has received unconfirmed reports.
started. It was a 24-hour news cycle, and it just sensationalized, things like hard copy and tabloid journalism. If you wonder why we are where we are today, okay, as far as things like, clickbait news cycles. I mean, it started here in the 90s, and with CNN, and they started the whole thing, and we came of age, okay, during major events like the fall of the Berlin Wall, the Gulf War, both of which I was in the military for, by the way. Didn't go overseas. So the Berlin Wall fell. I was in basic training at the time. I found out about it after I got out of basic training. Kind of like, whoa, man, crazy. The rise of global terrorism. The media sometimes felt like it was more focused on the spectacle than actual coverage. And if you wonder what's going on today, why the news is messing up today, and we're all going WTF at the news today, we were doing WTF at the news back then. We didn't understand the monster that was being created with a 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah, CNN is confirming that Canada has built a wall to keep us out.
Just like when they started the whole concept of, clickbait news. The first click was, the first one to get clicked on was the news organization that would have the story, okay, whether it was true or not, or whether you had even half the facts, or even a couple of facts, or any facts right at all. They still do it, right? Well, this all started back then, and so this whole idea of the 24-hour news cycle is, and so they just had to fill it, and they filled it with some of them, not good stuff. The rise of global terrorism. Now, how much of that was actually driven by the concept of Americans will see it and they'll fear us because they will see it because of this 24-hour news cycle. We're going to be on CNN and when we do this horrible act, or whatever. As things, how much of it was that? I don't know. I haven't done any studies, okay, but it is something to ask, because we're seeing the same thing today with with again. The point and click news cycle that we have now, which I can't stand it. I really can't stand it. So it's a WTF on that, guys. Why do we do it? Why do we click on this stuff? Because we're just gluttons for punishment. So, and then the undervaluing of cynicism and irony. Okay, this is a note so we developed a sense of cynicism and irony, kind of in response to the economic and the social shifts that we witnessed. Okay, so we saw this stuff happening, and we saw the rise of the .coms and the crash that happened with that, and so we did, and rather than exploring a nuanced way, media would just trivialize it. Okay, and and they just completely misunderstood it. Shows like Friends or Seinfeld played with the irony, but they didn't deal with the deeper issues. Well, Seinfeld actually was a show about nothing, so really can really expect much more than that out of that show. But they were there, and again, there was another one of those shows, The Friends. Okay, Seinfeld, he had a smaller apartment in New York. He was a successful comedian in the show too. Have no idea how Kramer survived. Nobody knows how Kramer survived. He jumped from thing to thing to thing. Oh, he was as bad as me. I'm just not so tall, gangly, and I make just as many bad choices. So despite these shortcomings, I mean, the 80s and 90s media also gave us these groundbreaking moments, like the grunge music scene. Oh man, I remember that so well because I was in Seattle in the 90s, during that grunge scene. And the music scene here was, in Seattle, because I'm still in the region. I just can't stand Seattle now. It's turned into a cesspool. But at the time, it was just such a really cool thing. Being able to, you could go to Pioneer Square in Seattle, and you would pay one cover charge, and you could go to all these different places and have different bands playing all around. And it was so cool. It was so great. And it's where Nirvana started. All these other great bands, Pearl Jam. We had some of the best stuff. We were the music scene, and it was great. Alternative films, okay, came out. If you they had the alternative films, not the mainstream, but the alternative ones really did work with some authentic narratives. But when it came to the mainstream, the media missed the mark, on understanding us. They didn't care about us because, and I'll be honest with you, if you're Gen Z or even the Gen Alpha, the youngest ones, I'll be honest with you, the media doesn't understand you either. They don't know how to get in touch with you. They're still playing from a playbook. They might change some of the words, okay? I mean, they might change some of the words to kind of appeal to you to a certain amount, but you're not watching CNN, are you? You're not catching the morning news at the TV like we did when we were kids, and then your parents aren't watching the 6 o'clock news in this in the evenings with you, okay? So they're missing the mark. They have no idea how to deal with you. You have power now, by the way. Gen Z, Gen Alpha, you guys have power. Gen X, we do. We have the disposable income. That's one of the things that is true. We have the disposable income. Millennials have the disposable income too. Okay, so depends on the millennial. They're working on some things here and there, but yeah, I mean, the older millennials probably do. Successful ones, your people, your programmers and stuff, they have disposable income. But one of the things about it is that millennials aren't watching the news. I don't watch the news, so the mainstream media, I mean, they've completely missed the mark. I mean, look at what's happened to Disney. Oh, I said that D word, Disney. So what's happened to them? I mean, they will ride that horse. Let me tell you, we are going for a ride on the Marvel Railroad here. We're going to go take that thing on down the tracks until we finally cannot milk it for another penny. Okay, how badly did they destroy the Marvel over the years? You tell me, which one did you hate the most? So they've done a few good things though. They brought some things around, okay. I didn't hate all of them by any stretch. I actually liked quite a bit of it. There was a few that were they just kind of went off the deep end. But but the media is definitely, I mean, they missed the mark on looking at the struggles that are actually happening to the people who they're supposedly are courting for our business. So anyway, that's pretty much all I got to say about that. But hey, if you agree with me, great. Let me know down below. If you don't agree with me, that's okay. You can let me know about that too. But give me a thumbs up, okay? I want to see it. Oh, lost my camera. Went outside. If you like what we're doing here, make sure you give me a thumbs up. If you don't like what we're doing, you can give me the thumbs down, but tell me why, right? Okay. So thanks a lot. Y'all have a great day. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. I'm out.